Almost done.
Nope. Oh,
Okay.
all right. Hey, everyone. It's so nice to see you. We are here to talk about the upcoming Mata Festival, which we're very excited about, which is happening from May 31st to June 3rd at Roulette in Brooklyn. And I'm Elena.
I'm Jess.
We are part of Found Sound Nation. We were asked by Mata to be the artists in residence this year, which was really exciting for us. It's a very different kind of endeavor for our organization. Found Sound Nation typically designs collaborative music creation, music making programs around the world. And so, in a sense, perhaps this fits the bill. We're kind of pairing up composers and merging composers and works with performers and kind of reaching into our networks of performers from very different backgrounds and styles and diversities. And so we're really excited to speak with some of the composers that were selected for the festival today. We have a selection of just under half of them. And should we kick it off?
Yeah,
Let's just kick
sure.
it off, hear from you all. None of these composers have met, which is really exciting. And we're really looking forward to using this month to putting these pieces together and presenting a really wonderful breadth of music and sounds at the end of the month. So in our Found Nation style, we run a lot of music residencies and we always have an icebreaker. We usually make people dance, but I know that's harder on harder on the Zoom screen. So we'll just ask everyone to say your name, where you're from and where you are now, how you would describe what you do, and also something that is bringing you joy right now. Um, we're gonna popcorn this, so we'll call on one person and then ask them to pass it along to someone else. So I'm going to call on Sophia, if you wouldn't mind starting.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Elena, and thanks everybody for this meeting. I'm really excited to be here and to meet you all, and also really excited for this festival. I'm a composer from Uruguay. I am currently in Montevideo, which is the capital city of Uruguay. And the other question was something about what I do. Well, about regarding music and composition, I have both aspects, which are creation and investigation, and also teaching. I'm a professor at the university, and about what I do, I think I just like to take every opportunity of composing as an opportunity to explore and to bring up some questions which I never know the answers to, luckily. So yeah, I think that's it. It's just a way of bringing up some questions and trying to find spaces for free listening or building sound context for people to be free to listen and to enjoy themselves and to have also a good time if possible. And something bringing me joy right now, well, it's the fact that I'm going to the festival, so I will be able to listen to this music that I'm composing and to listen to all the wonderful pieces everyone is working on and to meet new people. Uruguay is a really small country, really down south in South America. So it's always really nice to open new windows to new music and new people and to be able to travel. So I'm very lucky for that. So that's me.
Thank you so much. Sophia, can you select another one of our esteemed composers to share next?
Yes, I will go with Jen.
Hi, I'm Jenn Grossman, and I'm an electronic composer and sound artist mostly. Um, from I moved around a lot as a kid, so mostly Chicago and New Jersey were the two places. Um, and I guess I'm just curious about experimentation for the most part, and the kind of process-oriented things that you can do with sound, light, video. So I kind of merge into some multimedia and ephemeral art, I guess you could say. Um, and I'm just really interested in the ways that these media can affect people, um, and bring them to like a place of meditation or transcendence, or create some sort of like catharsis. So I think I'm mostly interested in the moments where I talk to someone and they say, "Oh, I had this experience," because it's something that's sort of like I can't predict necessarily, but they say, "Oh, I had this mental imagery," or "I went into this mental space." I'm really interested in like that mental space that you can create with sound, and also the physical, like sound objects, is something I'm very interested in exploring. Working with like everyday materials to give them a voice. So yeah, kind of straddling between the mundane and then the more kind of transcendent side of sound. And then something that brings me joy is just probably, I mean, this year has just been filled with a lot of interesting artistic collaborations. I was able to go to Ireland in March and present a multi-channel piece for 48 speakers. So that was pretty awesome. And then also just the fact that it's actually getting warmer and it's sunny out. So I am looking forward to, yes, the spring and summer. So thank you for having me. This has been really great. And then, so the next person, I will go with Jessica.
Hi, I'm Jessica Pavone, and I'm from New York, and I'm currently in Queens, New York. I haven't gone very far. I'm a violist and a composer, and I both are equally prominent in my practice, and I generally participate as a violist in almost all of the pieces that I create. This is a rare experience for me where I'm not going to be performing the piece. So it's kind of nice to just be on that end of it, although I have performed this piece many times. I work primarily with bowed string instruments because that was my initial introduction to music. I have written for all kinds of instrumentations, but in recent years, I've mostly just focused on bowed string instruments. And I like to incorporate time-based scores with meter scores so that there are elements of openness within the music that I create and agency to the players to make decisions. But I am careful to do it in such a way that the piece has an identity. The identity that I intended for the piece is there. So there's enough structure within the openness that I create that it's not going to be a completely different piece every time it's played, but there is some freedom for, I think something that's important to me as a string player is because it's actually a very painful thing to do, is to, what can you do to make playing this instrument feel good? And I feel like sometimes taking away the constant having to count and focus on meter to be more inside of your body and present with your instrument. So I'd like to give the instrumentalist choices, limited choices within parameters, so that they can kind of take their head outside of the score for limited time and focus on what they're doing with their body. And the piece of mine that's being performed is for 3 string players who hum while they play. And that's just another way for me of incorporating the body and how it is important in making sound with your instrument. Oh yeah, something that brings me joy. I've been really into taking these 3-mile walks every morning to the river. Yeah, it's like a new thing in my morning routine that's been nice, and I feel like it's been changing the outcome of my days. I'm gonna go to, I can't remember who didn't go. Dion, did you not go yet?
I haven't got, yeah, I can do it. Hi, I'm Dion Nataraja, he, him. I'm a composer, and I work a lot with Javanese gamelan, then customized instrument, microtonality, and spectral music. And I work a lot with gamelan musicians. I have an ensemble in Java called Sandikala Ensemble. I started around 4 years ago. And we're trying to use materials from the tradition, but trying to distort in such a way that it still has resemblance with the gamelan tradition, but trying to make it like strange. And we try to like develop extended techniques for many of the instruments, and like as well as like vocal techniques. And I've been working with with a friend recently who's a Javanese literature scholar and also a translator. So I have been commissioning him to translate passages from Kafka to Javanese, and it's not something like that's usually done because like Javanese is like an aristocratic aura to it, that language. So it was kind of a joke, you know, like translating a bunch of Kafka to Javanese. I thought it's funny, and I think people thought it's funny. I mean, it's an inside joke, but I think it's funny anyways. So I started using Kafka because it's funny. And the piece that I'm performing this in this festival, it's also using a Kafka text. It's called The Judgment. It's one of early Kafka short story, which is really strange, like really realistic, but really strange, and I love it. And yeah, I've been trying to work as well with my friend Yusti, who's in the ensemble. He's a Javanese gendera player. Gendera is like this mallet instrument, and we've been working on trying to find ways to improvise and having like interactivity with computer. So like having the computer read his improvisation and reply to him, etc. What else? I didn't mention where I'm from. I'm from Indonesia. Hey, and now I'm in Berkeley, California. I'm a new grad student here in UC Berkeley, and something that brings me joy, I think these days, is listening to a bunch of early music. It really gives me joy. Like Parallel Fifth is so good. It's so good. I don't know why we go to triads. I think Parallel Fifth is like the best thing on earth. Like Masho, oof, yeah, and then Masho, and then like take shower and then listen to Gagaku afterwards, and then after that listen to Turkish music. Like, oh, that's so great. Yeah, so that's my source of joy.
Thanks, Dion. Do you want to pass it to our last person?
Yes. So it's Lila, right?
Hi everyone, my name is Lila Meretzky and I'm a composer, originally from New York City, born and raised. I live in New Haven, Connecticut now, but I'll be heading back to New York very soon. And I do music for concerts, dance, and film mostly. I've also, some of my recent compositional instruments include setting Yiddish poetry to music, which is my piece All Neat Things Speak Today, which is going to be presented at Mata, is part of this series that I've been working on of Yiddish poetry. I've also been doing a lot of pieces for kind of like consorts of instruments or groups of like instruments. So I had a piece last year for a large brass ensemble. I also recently wrote a piece for 3 bassoons and 2 basses, so kind of focusing on the low end of the orchestra. And I love these kinds of like focused studies of different types of sounds. I'm also a visual artist, and over the past couple of years kind of been working on music and visual art in parallel, and moving forward, I'm excited to bring those things closer together. Mostly, I work with collage and also in video art, and so I also created a video for my piece for Mata, so this will be sort of an experiment in bringing these 2 things together. And something that's been bringing me joy lately is where I live in New Haven. For some reason, everybody's really into planting tulips, and they're very short-lived. They kind of like fall apart pretty quickly. They sort of like appear one day and they're gone the next, and they're extremely saturated in their color. So even today, it's like super gray and rainy out, but you can walk around and see these kind of like intense flashes, which I really enjoy.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. There's a great passage about tulips in the Michael Pollan Botany of Desire book. I don't know if you read that. Anyway. Wonderful. I forgot to say, like, if you have questions for each other that come up as you listen to each other speak and intrigued by something, please let us know. Jump in. There's not any set format, but thanks for that. Some of you touched on this already, but we were wondering whether you could share with us something intriguing, something you're excited about the piece that is going to be presented at Mata Festival, like a fun fact, even something fun about it, what people can expect. If you feel like you've already shared that, you can also speak generally about what's exciting about being part of the festival as a whole. And yeah, who would like to start with this? Any takers? Kick this question off? Yes, Sophia, please go ahead. Tell us a
Right.
fun fact about the piece.
Well, I don't know if it is a fun fact, but it's the fifth of a series of pieces which share a common structure, which relies on the genealogical tree of the performers which are playing. And for this, the knowledge of your background and also the memory you have of the people, and specifically from the names of these people, are a big part of the structure, in a way that performers should play certain sound events related to or identified with specific relatives' names. And if they forget some of these names or some of these people, they have to remain silent for a brief period of time. So the structure of the music becomes more porous or more filled with silence as we're going back in time and you have more people to remember. And so it's like exploring how these cognitive and also emotional aspects of performers can have an impact on the resulting sound context. So yeah, silence is a way of saying I've forgotten you, I've forgotten someone. So yeah, it's not such a fun fact, but but that's how the piece works. So that's the value of silence and that piece, really.
And Sophie, you wrote this piece that you submitted for the open call for Mata had a really beautiful graphic score that you've incorporated into this new piece. Could you talk a little bit more about the research that the performers have to do themselves about their own genealogy and their family history?
Yes, that is actually really open, and every performer can approach it the way they want because it's really personal what you want to know or you don't want to know about your background. But I think what I enjoy about looking back in my background, it's talking to people, talking to my family, and talking to my parents, my now late grandparents, like who was your grandmother? What was her name? When did she get here? And what color were her eyes? And that sort of thing. So that's what I think it's most important for performers. First, to acknowledge whether they want to know or they don't want to know for whatever the reasons they have. Then if they can know, because maybe there's information that's missing, and that always happens. And then, well, to find the time to talk to somebody if they don't have the information. So that's the way of first approaching, to know if they can fill in how many blanks of their background to then be able to play more of the piece. And yes, that wasn't the piece I presented, I submitted, and then this also happens in the new piece. I'm also trying to keep quite an open notation and also instrumentation. So I'm working with ranges and not with the regular stuff most of the time. And also I'm trying to keep it open for voices, whatever the range, for both string instruments, violin, viola, and cello, and also for woodwinds, any woodwind. And I would like to keep it even more open if possible, but I'm still working on it. So, yeah.
Beautiful, thank you. Do you want to select someone, Sophia, to answer this?
Yes.
Next?
Okay, Jessica, maybe.
Okay. My piece that's being presented is called Hidden Voices, and the string players are holding the instruction in the piece is for the people, the instrumentalists, to hold their notes for as long as their breath. At least that's how it starts, and then it gets into meter in the second half. But and with that, they start to hum with their breath so that they're playing and humming at the same time. And the intention is for the breathing to be part of the piece. And what happens is another timbre comes and different harmonies are created. And I've noticed in the past when I've performed this piece, usually the audience doesn't know where the other sound is coming from initially, and they think that it's like a difference tone, like they can't figure out because whatever the choice of pitches I use, it just kind of sounds like a cluster of sound, but not like anything you would expect coming from a trio. And getting the ensemble to breathe together, because breathing is such a part of the piece, I also feels connects them in a way where they're making the music more together. Aside from being isolated in their score, they're more with each other. Yeah, I don't know what else to say about the piece. You should go to the festival and hear it.
That's the bottom line. Love it. Thanks, Jessica. Can you select someone else?
Yes, Jen.
See, so my piece is called Meridian, and its composition minimal. It was, I guess, a fun fact. It's not really fun, but that it was created in software. So this is the first time I'll be playing it with live instruments. I compose mostly in software, and so it's very rare that I get a chance to have any live performers, even though I have a background like playing sax myself, and do a lot of like solo electronic performances. So yeah, I guess just the nice thing about this is kind of bringing it into the live space. And yeah, I'll just talk a little bit about it. It's kind of based in repetition and long tones, and conveying this feeling of wandering and cycling, but kind of always coming back to the same place, which is pretty vague. But yeah, that's sort of, I guess I don't really start composing with concepts usually, and then it's more kind of like an after the fact feeling or assessment when I start to be able to develop the conceptual side of the sound. So yeah, there's nothing too fun about it, but just fun that it's being performed live. So yeah, anyway.
Jen, can I ask what was driving you to try, because you applied for the Mata, you submitted it to Mata to be performed live, and I'm wondering what was the driving force for you for wanting to play with live musicians now after composing in software?
Well, there's a few pieces specifically that I've composed in software that I always envisioned having a live form. And so, yeah, some of them are just more kind of like sound art, music concrete, like field recording or textural or various just kind of tonal drone types of ambiances and things like that. But this one specifically came with, you know, like I just envisioned it for brass, and I didn't start playing any brass, so I figured I would need some help with that. So I saw that you guys pair people with musicians, and that's what sort of made me think, oh, yeah, this makes sense.
Great, thank you.
Sure. The next person, Lila.
Yeah, so my piece, which will be on the night 3 of 4, I think, is for soprano and double bass. And it's a piece that has been performed on its own, but it's actually the last movement of a cycle of 9 songs, which is for chamber orchestra and voices. And so at the very end of the piece, everything kind of shrinks down to just these 2 instruments. And the text of that's being sung is kind of about themes of like alienation and thwarted desire. It's about this person who is kind of walking around in the world and feeling a connection to nature, and he kind of imagines that they're getting messages from trees and clouds and that the whole world is speaking to them. It's called All Mute Things Speak Today. But then at the very end, there's this turn where the person says, "You, my dear, are silent." And we wonder, is this person talking to God? Are they talking to someone who's dead? Are they talking to someone who can't speak? Are they talking to themselves? It's sort of ambiguous. And I like that ambiguity. I think you can kind of fill it in for whatever is meaningful to you. This idea that you can have a lot of maybe certain types of abundance, but maybe not appreciate them, or still, you know, feel thwarted in your desire for something specific. That's, I think, very meaningful for me. And the piece itself, there's kind of this idea of a dialogue within the poem that is maybe kind of like where people sort of come close together and then they drift apart. And that happens between the two performers, the singer and the bassist. They're both kind of, and this is a common feature of my music, the rhythms and the notes that they sing are based on like a very, I would say almost like algorithmic pattern that is extremely strict. And what results is that they kind of like come together and then fall apart again in very unexpected ways. And I thought that this was kind of a nice way to reflect the poem of sort of like getting close to what you want, but maybe being like kind of suddenly drifting away and then coming back when you don't expect it. And, you know, one of the things that I'm really excited for specifically for this performance was to show a video that I made that goes along with it. The text is set in the original Yiddish, which is not the dominant language of the audience, nor of it's not my native language. But like, so thinking about creative ways to present a text that maybe don't involve just flashing the words on a projection as they go by, or having it written in a program in a dark concert hall where people have to like be looking at a sheet of paper. So it involves, I don't want to give too much away, but it involves a painting that I made, which kind of is much bigger than the frame of the video, and you sort of get to see certain parts of it at certain times. And you know, one thing I'm excited for in general is to experience everybody's pieces together. I feel like the curation process for this festival seems like so carefully considered, and I feel like there's going to be a new piece that emerges out of the combination of everyone's work, and of course regarding the different themes across the different nights. So I'm really looking forward to experiencing like kind of the whole impact of everyone's work together. And I'll pass it to Dion.
Yeah, so my piece I wrote it last year. Last year, I think. Yeah, last year. It was from last year. And I'm really excited for this because I got the chance to collaborate with Penny Chandrarini, who's a Japanese singer, for this piece. So I'm arranging a part for her. So this is like an extension of the piece I wrote last year, and it was called Kafka Postmortem. It's for Javanese kundir, tuned to this 36 tone tuning system. 2 of them doesn't have octave repetition, so it just keeps expanding, and only resolve like it doesn't resolve into instruments. So I'm really excited about that. And for the text that I'm using for Mbak Penny, it's a other translation of Kafka, so it's going to be imposition of 2 texts. It's a very short, very enigmatic sentence from Kafka. It's from a short story called The Messiah. The sentence goes like this: the Messiah will come only when he is no longer necessary. He will come only on the day after his arrival. He will come not on the last day, but on the very last. What does that mean? I don't know, but it's very interesting. I love it. And in this piece as well, this is my first time I actually perform in my own piece, so I'm going to sing in this piece. And I start to explore extended techniques, and I get obsessed with Kargira, the Kargira throat singing, and I try to emulate it, but I keep failing, and I arrive at something else, which I don't know what it is, but I kind of like it, and at the same time, when I was like trying to do this whole like harsh kind of singing, I was really into harsh noise. I was really into Hijo Kaida, and I was really into like obscure bands like the Rida and just really something that would really hurt your ear when you listen to it. And I really enjoy actually like hurting my ear in that sense. Like there's a really a pleasure in listening to this really, really harsh noise that it just fills your body. And I felt the same when I tried to emulate that singing, although of course I emulated like falsely. But that I feel like this really pain in my throat. But I enjoy that pain. In fact, it feels so good. And I came across this Argentinian artist, Marta Dermisage, who she made this kind of drawing with ink, painting with ink, and most of it are like blurred text. So it has a form of a text, but you cannot read the text. So it's just like blobs of ink. And I thought there was quite inspiring analogy to think of how to work with text, how to take a text and then find a way to extend that to more like non-semantic spaces. So it doesn't really mean anything, but it becomes more like a sensation in some segments of it. Yeah, and this is my first path in working with text, and I'm really excited because I really enjoy literature. I also quite like opera, so this kind of format is I think this piece is like aesthetically like the way I think about the text is a combination of like thinking about it harsh throat singing-esque thing, and then the Javanese kind of like recitation in like sing style called mocopat, as well as an opera by Debussy, Pele Amélie Songde, because in that opera most of the lines as when the singers recite their line, it stays in one tone and then move to the other tone. So it's very restrained. And I do enjoy that restraint. Although this piece is not restrained, I think, but nevertheless. So that's from me.
Thank you, Dion. Lila mentioned that each of the evenings has a theme, and so just to explain that a little bit, and Dion, we talked about your piece. It's on the first night, which is sound, space, and ritual, which is described as pieces that set intentional and even ritualistic spaces for deep listening, meditation, and improvisation. And we spoke a little bit about processes of pain as meditation, which is really interesting, something you just alluded to now. The second evening is, we are calling it Plug In, Turn Up, and it's the description is, we turn it up, recontextualizing and harnessing elements of live band shows of all kinds to transform the energy of the contemporary classical listening space. And Jenn, your piece is on this night, along with other pieces that have different formations that emulate more like bands, rock bands. There's a 5 accordion piece on that night, so not just rock bands, but just, like these different kinds of music performances, I would say. And then the third night we're calling Voice, Lineage, and Humanness, featuring works about people and the nuances of our collective humanity, examining lineages, histories, and voice, confronting human beauty, human pain, and the connections in between. And Jessica, Lila, and Sophia's pieces are on that evening. And the fourth evening, we as Fans Foundation are going to present some works, which is also something we don't do often. So we're really excited about that and hope you all will come to that as well. I want to ask one more question, and we can wrap up after that. But just very specifically, this is another icebreaker type question, but I think the more detailed, the more interesting. But what is one specific thing that is inspiring you about creating, making, collaborating in the music creation process right now, at this moment in your life?
Okay.
Okay.
I can break the ice. Yeah. Lately, was just, I think in March, I had the opportunity to write for a German ensemble that came here. And I wrote a piece that it was called "We Are Gathered Here Today," because what is stimulating me right now to write music for performance is the fact that music can gather people together to have an acoustic experience and share the same place and time that is articulated by sound. And that's what I find most exciting, that to be like an ephemeral community. Even when you're listening to some electroacoustic music alone in your home, you are like having this shared experience with other people that have listened to this piece or will listen it forward any place at any time. So that's what I find exciting right now, the fact of gathering people together just to listen, listening is a lot, but to articulate a shared experience by sound. That's what I'm finding really stimulating. Yeah, I didn't say the name of the piece that that I will be presenting at Mata. It is called "I Come From Afar." Yeah. So I will pass it to Lila.
Oh, yeah. I mean, one thing I think I've been that's maybe exciting me musically right now is humor. I think that especially like in the world of concert composition, there's maybe an attitude that if your work is funny, it's not as rich, or it's not as maybe not as rich is the word. And I think like just considering all of the other types of media that I consume outside of music, like literature, television, humor, or humor in the face of pain, despite pain, because of pain, existing alongside, it's something that you sort of like, it's something that makes all these other forms of media like exciting to me. And so I've been trying to find more ways to embrace humor in my music, and to like highlight it when it occurs spontaneously, and also to try to bring it in. I've also been making a lot of kind of like absurd video art lately, and so taking kind of like enjoying the freedom and the sense of play that I get from that, and bringing that into my process has also been a lot of fun. Like one author that I've really been loving recently is Miriam Toews. She's a Canadian author who writes a lot about people that have kind of like left Mennonite communities. And these are books about people that have had like a very specific kind of like life experiences and worldview, but and often very painful life experiences, but her novels always have humor in them. And I think it's a real testament to the fact that you can't sort of like, it's not something to be filtered out. And I think in concert music, at least, which is the sort of like angle that I come from, it does get filtered out too much. And I'll pass it to you, Jessica.
I hope you can't hear the construction. I don't know. Okay, good. I can. I've been really inspired by playing with form and creating different ways of using notation to navigate through music. And every time I kind of finish a collection of pieces, I discover new ways to do that. So I've been really interested in notation and inventing notations. And also just because I'm also an instrumentalist who plays, ways of making notation, just the communication between a performer and a composer and the clarity of that communication. Because I think also we're trained to read a certain way. We're trained to read in the Western system, and using that enough so that it's, because I think a lot of times when people use alternate notations, it's just confusing to the performer and it's counterintuitive. So really doing it in a way that uses what's already trained in the training so that the communication is clear while finding ways to step outside of it. So I'm really inspired by notation at the moment, and changing notation and form. I will pass it to Jen.
Let's see. I think it's probably along the lines of what Sophia was saying. What's inspiring most now is kind of like after a global pandemic, like coming back and having shared sound spaces together. Like it's really nice to compose in your studio or kind of get into the nuances of pieces, but yeah, having that, going back to that shared sound experience, and also, yeah, acoustically, like experiencing sound in space, because it's very different depending on the space. And in a more particular sense, I guess just, yeah, kind of getting back to basics and stuff that I'm interested in. So, and finding ways to like make those things, put them out more, I think, because I sort of tend to refrain and retreat. And so, yeah, just the excitement of getting sound out there, I think. Yeah.
Thanks, Jen. Dion?
Yeah.
I think what has been really inspiring for me is thinking about ornaments and how ornaments often it's this often underlooked aspect, but could convey so many things. So I've been listening to a lot of Southeast Asian composer like Jose Maceda and Shinari and also Korean composer Lee Sang-yoon. And you know, like thinking about like how they use like really intense chromaticism, but at the same time, like there's something else going on, like in the terms of texture. Like I was listening to Masida, at first it sounds like like you thought it's going to sound just like Xenakis, but it's actually it's if you have background in like listening to music in Southeast Asia, there's something that is different, and it was so interesting. Like when I can hear it that way, and I think the same goes with like Lee Sang-yoon. I think it's more pronounced in Lee Sang-yoon. Like I'm really impressed with just how using like this subtle ornaments he could integrate like elements of Korean music in this very deep way, without just having like as a quotation, but having something integral to the structure. And yeah, so I've been really excited about that, and I've been really excited about cataloging all possible, like as many as possible extended techniques for gamelan with different, just like having and cataloging in a very detailed way. Something I learned from a teacher about how to work with this materials. And I think aside of that, I'm becoming more in love, I guess, with a really almost like flat impression of a piece. Like when a piece doesn't have like a three-dimensional quality. I guess I guess that's often manifested in like in things like things that incorporate heterophony. That it felt very flat in a nice way. It's like you have a line and then you have like many other way to vary that line, and I found something from Paul Clay's pedagogical sketchbook. But he's like how to vary a line. So it's really interesting, like, but thinking about a line, and you can impose a line like in like different shape and stuff like that. And when you overlap everything, it becomes noise, right? So it's really interesting thing about to think about like how like line and noise. It's like there's a spectrum that you could explore in between. But aside from that, it's I think it's parallel fifth. Yeah, it has been exciting, and yeah, I love parallel fifth. I think music goes down when history of music goes down when people abandon parallel fifth. It's the best thing on earth. Anyways.
So many parallel fifths.
Exactly.
Thanks, Dion. Does anyone have questions for anyone else here listening to each other before we sign off? Jess, do you have any questions for anyone? It's like super fascinating to hear all of these. I love hearing like kind of moments in time, because I know that, so many things change about what inspires and excites us and what we're doing in our lives. And especially, I think, in the last couple of years, it's been a lot of introspection about that. So thanks for sharing all of that. Any last questions for each other? Any last statements anyone wants to make? No?
Excited to listen to all of your piece. Yeah, I'm really excited to listen to people's pieces.
Really
Yeah,
excited.
thanks for having us. Yeah, this is cool.
Thank you.
Great. Thanks so much.
Yeah, we're excited
Melissa.
to see everything come together and to really actually feel out all of these pieces as a complete concert. So thank you all for your time and your work and for all of your music.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, and I'll see you soon. I hope.
You all
See so many of you soon.
All right. Thanks, guys. I'll end the recording. Looking forward to the performances and meeting everybody in person. But yeah, no, thank you so much for your time this morning. We appreciate it.
Yeah, super fun. Great to see you all in one place. Lila, we'll email you very soon. Sorry for the delay. It's all happening. Yeah, if anyone else needs, yeah, we have some stuff we have to communicate and arrange and organize, but we'll work on it. But please reach out to us and bug us if we're not responsive.
All right. Thanks, guys.
All right.
Thanks a lot.
Have a good day.
Bye.